Welcome to Kuchi, a show where people from endangered and indigenous language communities around the world come together to share their experiences, challenges, and successes. In today's episode, we are looking at community-driven projects, initiatives that are created by and for communities of minoritized languages. We are joined by Çiya Tabar, a member of the Kurdish community currently living in Bilbao, who is deeply passionate about his language and culture, and Mohammad Kamal-Deen Fuseini Dnshitobu, a Dagbamba community member and language activist. Along with his peers, Dnshitobu works closely with Wikimedia to help enrich the internet by digitizing Dagbani and related languages from his region in Ghana and making them accessible on Wikipedia. Together, we explore how both communities are working to keep their languages alive, and we also touch on an unexpected theme that connects them. Who knows, perhaps one day we'll even see a Kurdish-Dagbamba Fire Festival. With that out of the way, let's dive in.
En julin bo ni Mohammad Kamal-Deen Fuseini kan yi tamal na tamal biela Ghana tangbam puuni saha ŋɔ nyɛla shukuru karimba n-wuhiri Nuria Islamic Senior High School ka lahi tɔhiri sabiri Wikipedia baŋsim bayana kundi la zuɣu n-tɔhiri sabiri ka be Dagbani Wikimedia User Group din be Ghana ka lahi nyɛ Wikimedia Foundation kparibuɣu alaka ti lihi pɔhim zuɣu sɛlinima biɛhisi gubu dini ka silimiinsi boli cyber security n-lahi be bɛ group maa puuni di kana shukuru polo saha ŋun bɔhindila pɔhim zuɣu salo gubu Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology masters kan niŋdi nimaani di niŋma suhupiɛlli pam ni zuŋɔ n-gba ni pahi zuŋɔ ʒii maa puuni maa. To which I am Mohammad Kamal-Deen Fuseini. I'm a professional teacher with Ghana Education Service. I am currently based in Tamale, Ghana. And in terms of education, I'm currently pursuing Master of Philosophy in Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. I'm also a member of the Cybersecurity Experts Association in Ghana. I'm passionate about languages and language activism. And as a result, I'm a member of the Dagbani Wikimedia User Group that is based here in Tamale, which is an affiliate of the Wikimedia Foundation based in San Francisco. I volunteer my time and efforts to language documentation. Currently, we are supporting the documentation of the 16 Mabia languages and also languages across the world on the internet, because we want to have these languages survive in the current AI jurisdiction. Thank you.
Roşbaş, navê min Çiya ye. Ez ji Kurdistanê Bakurê me û nêzîkî 15 salê min ez İspanya dijim. Her dem û zimanê kurmancî ji bo min tiştek mijarek pir mezin e, lê qet aktivîst nebûme û neketime hundirê meseleyê ser zimanê Kurdî. Lê zimanê xwe ji bo malbat re û ji bo gozarekê min çêbûyê min qet pîr nekiriye, ji bo wilo min malbat re hevalê xwe re de êgonas dikim, min pir daîm ziman xwe axivîye. Kengê min mala xwe ava kir İspanya, min hevalên Kurdî pir hindik nas kir û lê dîsa jî destê min çi hat ji bo Kurdî min wêna çêkir. Lê aniha kengî min îga û hevalên zimanê xwenî ava dikim min nas kir, dixwazim pirtir tiştên ser zimanê Kurdî çêkim, ji bo wilo jî xwe çavê xwe vedikim ji bo karim ji ser bo Kurdî çi karim çê dibe çê nabe. My name is Çiya. I am from northern Kurdistan and I speak Kurmanji, but I am based in Spain more than 15 years. So I am kind of, and that's what I'm mentioning before, isolated from my language because there is no big Kurdish community in Spain, and that's why it has been only individual attempts to be in connection with my language in Spain and of course with my family, with my kids, etc. But there has been no activism around my language. Now that I want to change that perspective, and I want to be involved in more volunteer things related to Kurdish in Spain, and I want to see how I can revitalize in that sense where I am living and do more stuff with my language. Dnshitobu, I was surprised with your intro, and I also seen, in your comments that you mentioned several languages. So you work with several languages in your region, but you personally speak one of them, or you also know these different languages that you try to revitalize?
Yeah, thank you, Sia. We speak a lot of languages here. In Ghana, to be specific, we have 84 languages. About 48 of these languages are well documented. For our region, we speak Dagbani.
How many of them are registered from these 84 languages?
48 languages are properly documented. But where I come from, um, we have 16 Mabia language. These 16 Mabia language are usually called the mutually intelligible languages. In most jurisdiction and literature, you will find them as Moli Dagbani languages, but I speak Dagbani out of these 16 languages. Now, these 16 languages are mutually intelligible because there are some common words that you can understand from another language. So if someone speaks Mampuruli today, if someone speaks Dagari or Gruni, you'll be able to at least understand the concept, but you might not be able to understand everything because they are quite different languages, but they have similar words in common. For example, if you pick English and French, there are some words that are found in French and can also be found in English. So you have that similarity. So how we are able to help support these languages, even though we don't speak them, is the fact that we use Wikimedia platforms. So before we support a language to get its incubator, we first of all have to find people who are interested in documenting this language. Then we form a community out of that group. Then we try to create an incubator platform for them on Wikimedia. So there's a platform called incubator.wikimedia.org. We'll create an incubator from them, just like we incubate X. And then we'll translate most of the commonly most used media wiki statements into their language. So because they understand the language, we are providing technical support. And then as time goes on, they will begin to create articles in their own language. But for Dagbani, yeah, we also follow the same process. And currently, Dagbani has a little over 24,000 articles. In terms of integration, Dagbani is the most integrated language in the Wikimedia ecosystem because currently it's more integrated with Wikidata and other Wikimedia projects. But in terms of documentation, the Dagbani language do not have so much documentation online.
Dnshitobu, regarding your articles, and let's focus on one part because I think that will be more interesting in the sake of comparisons between my dialect, which is Kurmanji, and yours, Dagamba. At least that's what I understand, that you also speak that language, and you mentioned that you have like 4,000 articles. So I can imagine that these articles are gathered by different type of profiles, different kind of people, and what kind of articles they are. They are all cultural related, justification. I don't know. They are like, or simple storytelling, autobiography.
Yeah, thank you, Sia. So just like your language, I also speak Dagbani, and these articles we create, they vary from one context to another. So we literally don't create articles on just one concept because Wikipedia is an encyclopedia. An encyclopedia is usually made up of different concepts and different topical areas. So yes, a lot of articles are related to the Dagbani culture because this was just even the foundation for which we created the Wikipedia. A lot of people were like, they cannot find cultural related activities online regarding the Dagban culture. So this was one of the reasons we created it. But now we have articles related to education, articles about sports, articles about biographies of people, articles that are about scientific, science-related topics, and also plants and animal species, and as well as diseases. Especially when COVID-19 came, this was a moment for us to delve deeper into writing more articles about diseases and health-related concepts so that people can easily read them in their language and understand. So yes, we write articles on so many different topics.
Okay, and these articles, let me understand that clearly, they eventually end up in Wikipedia, right?
Yes. So the challenge we have found, because they are culturally relevant articles, sometimes it's difficult to get references for them. So the English Wikipedia is very strict on referencing, but the Dagbani Wikipedia, which is a language Wikipedia, we have managed to relax the rules so that we'll be able to document the culture. As for the references, we can get to find them later and add them. But for now, we just have to document the real activities and the culture itself. Because if you look at the Dagbani culture, it has been passed down from generation to generation through the oral knowledge. So most of the history is found in oral history, and very hardly can you find them in written language. So for now, our focus is not so much on textual references for them, but just to document the real culture activities.
And in that sense, that's I'm really curious about that. When it comes to my language, Kurmanji, we have a lot of, maybe you have seen the numbers, we have a lot of Kurdish speakers, but we are not highly educated in our language. So when we write them, we have a lot of variations and a lot of grammarly. Of course, there is one, let's say, academical part of the language, and some intellectuals can dominate the language, but we have also a lot of people, in that case like me, that I cannot even type correctly in my own language. But even, and I'm curious, when you get the sources from different people with the realities, or the, like, not scientific articles maybe, but the traditions, or, like the realities of the daily life, etc. And I don't know if the people who are involved in that kind of topics, articles, when they are written, they are ordinary people, or they are just, with the, in the case of Dagbani, people who are highly educated in that language and they can write properly the language.
Yes. So our community is also made up of diverse groups, people who have knowledge about the oral history, people who can read and write in the language, and people who have gone to school to study the language. So when it comes to the writing, almost everyone is allowed to write, but the experts have got their own way of monitoring and proofreading, correcting errors, and all of that. But as for the oral knowledge, everybody is welcome. So when we realized that another way of documenting the language was to record more audios, so we have now implemented the Mozilla Common Voice project for the Dagbani, so that people who can speak the language but cannot read and write because of the orthography or the grammatical rules that it comes with, they can go on to record on Mozilla Common Voice, whilst those who can read and write will continue to edit on Wikipedia. Again, also we have Wikidata, where this is just a structured platform and you don't really have to write so much. You just enter like very simple information about the subject you are writing. So those who do not understand the language, like you have mentioned, for them, they can concentrate on similar concepts like that. So one thing I've come to understand is that languages do not just exist, they evolve. And one of the things most people have not come to appreciate is the fact that language is dynamic, it keeps changing. So we have a lot of people who are of the view that before you contribute to your language, you must hold a PhD or a master's degree or a bachelor's degree from the university to be able to contribute to your language. But I really do not subscribe to this. I just feel like you need passion. And as for contributing to your language, you can contribute in any form. Just choose the domain in which you want to contribute. One of the setbacks we've had in this light or in this direction is the fact that the people that we consider the experts of the language do not sometimes want to get fully involved, because currently they write books and they publish these books and they sell. So when you tell them more about open source platforms and open source projects that can help preserve the language, they are not really interested. And that is because if the language content is made open source, is made public, where would they be making money from, right? So a lot of them are not really interested, but that is still not a challenge for us. For us, we feel like even though we don't have PhDs in Dagbani language, master's degree in Dagbani language, we are still contributing our part. We are trying to document the language, and at least, if for nothing at all, we have been able to bring Dagbani to the internet ecosystem. 5-6 years down the line, there was really barely nothing online about the Dagbani language, and now we have a lot of articles, a lot of content. So yes, you cannot achieve it all. Just identify a niche and contribute to it, and you are indirectly contributing to the language revitalization. Okay, Chia, I think you've mentioned about your language and how it's not popular in your region because of the dominance of other language. Could you tell us more about your language and what you are doing to make sure that it gains the grounds amidst the current geopolitics that is trying to reduce the popularity of it? The other question is, what are you doing to make sure that your language also gain dominance in your region?
When it comes to that, that's the little bit the hard part of my language. And as I said, I am not an activist in that sense, and I'm just seeking like new ways, new paths that I can find or engage even with my language, especially people who are based in Spain. We had some small attempts, let's say, but due to several reasons, we couldn't gather, and we just tried to try some activities, cultural activities, people who living in Spain, but we couldn't manage that. And related to my family in Turkey, I try to keep them the language, but the thing is that the hardest thing is that mostly within my people, my family, my relatives, even we cannot communicate in our language mostly, and with most of people, I do communicate in Turkish. That's the little bit, and even when we use the main like communication tools, kind of WhatsApp or whatever, we never use our language. And it's like mostly elderly people who are, when we talk to them, like my family, elder people, and we speak Kurdish. But to the other young generations, we mostly end up speaking Turkish. And I think the popularity in that sense, at least people around me, it's not so high. And I couldn't even manage to make like, yeah, even with my family, because nowadays we have all these digital platforms to make gatherings, etc., to speak in Kurdish in any topics, and that's I cannot manage with my family or with my family and friends.
Thank you for sharing this. I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
My follow-up question is, are there books or literature or online content that can teach someone who actually wants to learn and speak the language? For example, in your case, are there applications, maybe a mobile app that can allow you to learn your language or communicate with your family in your language, if if people want to learn the language?
Yeah, a good one. I think that's a little bit what happens with Kurdish and the fact with our language. We have one part, and that's why I was very eager to listen to you. At the same time, we have a lot of access to resources. We have a lot of books, even platforms, even people there are like communities using like X platform, the Twitter, and we have a lot of different channels and a lot of resources accessible to us. But at the same time, when it comes to the reality of the daily life, when using the language, it gets like maybe due to not so popular and the prestige of the other languages, we don't want to use it at all times. We just prefer the other language that we know. In diaspora in Europe, for example, mostly European languages, and when it comes to Turkey or other parts of the regions, we just prefer to switch to dominant language. And I don't know why that happens, because even in big cities of Turkey or in like Germany, etc., I can access to anything that I want. But when we try to talk with each other, mostly we switch the language.
Okay. One final question. Yes, thank you. I'm happy to hear that at least there are platforms and communities that can still support people who wants to learn the language. This means that there's still so much hope for the language, especially when it comes to revitalization. Um, One last question is, with what you have learned so far in your language, and also looking at the unfortunate situation that you are not able to get more people to talk to, do you think it's something that is going to be possible where individuals can, let's say, set up communities on social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok or other pages where they can just basically record 1 minute audio or video speaking the language? It could be about anything. For example, when we started, we had to introduce ourselves in our language. So maybe uh, it could be a challenge you would throw up to people. Record about yourself in 1 minute in your language and share. Then maybe you create a hashtag to that you can track. Is this something you could do? And maybe that could be part of the language revitalization.
Yeah, I am not actively using the social media. Once I had Twitter, maybe that's how I can engage. But I think, in to be more realistic, what I would like to do and what I would like to maybe participate in something that I can also physically get connected with people. So even it's a little bit hard, and we had some small attempts. First, I would like to start from Spain and the people that I know, and maybe the family, because I also can visit them and talk to them. Maybe that could be the starting point more than social media, because it seems to me much more challenging using social media actively due to my time restriction. You mentioned about a lot these community-driven projects, and what I understood with that, and that's really I'm interested to create the community a project that we can all involve. And what I've seen with your words, Dnshitobu, that you have this Wikimedia project, and I want to just be sure that if the diversity of people that you mentioned, and if anyone can be involved in this, I know that these are digital platforms, and I can understand that you need to be at least prepared to use, digital tools, etc. Sometimes even for elder people or for young kids, it can be harder. But I am really curious if there is kind of like big events, not that like individually we are working and we are trying to write by ourselves, etc., but that like kind of events that gather people, and it makes like more community collaborative projects, and it gives like boost and the like feeling like, that hey, we are going somewhere, not we are working individually or like an office work, but in a more traditional, in a more celebrating, way of your project. That's what I'm really curious about.
Okay, so thank you. In a more community-driven sense, apart from the contribution of Wikipedia, so almost every week we are always engaged in trainings and workshops where the community will come together. And during these events, like everybody gets involved. You ask your questions, you go through training, you are broken into groups. So there's always breakout rooms where people sit in groups and they talk, they discuss before they contribute their content on Wikipedia. We also have end of year get together where the community comes together. In these events, nobody really edits. You just come. It's about merrymaking, collaboration, and also networking. It's a networking session. Maybe there are some people who have been contributing in the last 2-3 years that you've never met. During events like this, you come together. You're able to talk out a lot of issues and um, get to also understand the current challenges everybody is facing, how you can pull your resources together to solve these challenges, and if there's the need for capacity building, do you have the experts in-house to be able to train those who need the capacity building, or do you have to source this from another platform or another community? So usually during these special events, yeah, we come together to network, to share. Again, also in our parts of the world, especially in Tamale, we have a lot of festivals. And these festivals are usually grounds where people come together. And usually when we meet during festivals or when we meet during games, people get to share, people get to network, speak the language the way they want. And mostly during those events, people would have to appear in the traditional attire so that everybody feels recognized and like they are just special days for us. So festivals and also community meetups are just events where people come together. Do you have something similar in your area?
Yeah, of course, we have that kind of events in Turkey, but unfortunately, and due to my time limitation, I'm based in Spain, I cannot attend them. But I know that there are a lot of cultural events in any kind of cultural topics or linguistic events going on, especially in Turkey and in Northern Europe. The thing is that, and what I have noticed during my stay in Spain, unfortunately we don't have regular periodical events in like community driven projects in Spain. And I think, as I am based in Spain, and that would be a good beginning, maybe not where I am staying now, but like main cities, kind of Barcelona or Madrid could be a good candidate where we have a little bit more Kurdish communities. And one of the things that I am really curious about your projects, because I know that for you and for us it's quite challenging. We have our responsibilities and limitations, and when we spend time on that kind of community driven projects, and I don't know how it works in your area, it's also extra time, effort, and financially also it's quite challenging. So in that sense, for example, when new people or when people collaborating, you mentioned like vast diversity of people. I don't know how do you manage apart from the platforms. I mean, the time of people and their volunteer. I don't know if it's fully volunteering, but the financial aspect of these kind of events.
Yes, thank you for asking. In terms of finance, we are currently supported by Wikimedia Foundation. So usually we apply for rapid grants or general support fund. And this grant allows us to be able to organize these activities and then report back to Wikimedia Foundation. We also get grants from other partners and other organizations that are into language activism or language revitalization. But most importantly, I think the volunteer spirit is what drives everybody and the need to get the language documented online. Because one thing that struck us so hard was the fact that in Ghana, like I mentioned, we have so many languages. But then when you go on Google, you have about 3 different languages that are currently supported. So the 3 million speakers of the Dagbani language were asking question, why is Google not translating into Dagbani? And the answer was simple. There's no so much documentation or data online for Google to learn and even translate to Dagbani. And this was what struck us hard, and we had to start working so much to get the language out there. So even when people are getting tired, when there are no funds for people to move on, the spirit that still drives them is how do we get the internet to know more about the language so that it doesn't go into extinction. But in terms of support, yes, we usually get grants from organizations. And our chief funder so far is the Wikimedia Foundation, to which we are very grateful.
And again, going back to, if I want to understand the initial or historical background, because this is also curious, in my case, and this could be something from scratch. Historically, how did it start? How the main connections, because also that part when I can mention to some of my colleagues, indeed to get or give another chance to gather around, try to do some cultural or even using some platforms to gather around. It shouldn't be any cost at all, at least for the initial beginnings. But I'm really curious how it started, at least from your end or from your side. How did you give it a continuous way of working?
Yes, thank you for asking. We started not quite long. Wikimedia Foundation has been supporting communities across the globe, and currently it's even supporting Wikimedia Turkey or the Turkish Wikimedia community. But in Ghana, we have got affiliates or affiliate groups. So these affiliate groups are like partners of the Wikimedia Foundation. They could sometimes be independent organizations that are supported by Wikimedia Foundation. So in our case, where the community was founded by our current ED by name Sadiq Shahadu. He founded the community. And then the goal was to document the Dagbani language. So we started sourcing for grants from the foundation through rapid grants. These rapid grants is usually any Wikimedian who is currently contributing to Wikipedia or any of the Wikimedia projects can readily access these grants so long as you can provide reasons why you need that grant to be able to work on your projects. So yeah, this was how we started. And when the community started growing and our activities started spanning beyond 6 months to 1 year, now we are currently supported on the General Support Fund, which is also a special fund dedicated to Wikimedia affiliates that have plans beyond 1 year. But before you get General Support Fund, you need to have received rapid grants a couple of times, maybe 3, 4, 5 times, and reported on all these rapid grants so that they are sure that you are someone who actually can deliver on the things you said you are working on before you are given chance to go in for the General Support Fund. So for your language, if it is since it's based in Turkey, maybe you can contact Wikimedia Turkey and then they can access grants for you, or they can create a community with your support and then be supporting the community to run its activities. So like in our case, the Dagbani Wikimedians is a group, is an affiliate, and we are able to support currently 5 different communities who are working on different languages. So we receive the funds as a community, then these individual groups will now also apply to Dagbani for micro grants and then report back to us. Then we'll also work on our projects and all together report back to Wikimedia Foundation. This is how we do it here. So I'm sure if you want funding to also support your work, you can reach out to Wikimedia Turkey, and maybe if there's a way I could connect you after this call, we can talk about it and see how we can get your community connected.
More than getting this relation with Wikimedia Turkey or even using Wikimedia, that's I'm not so sure. I just want to understand the foundations of community-driven projects, which I may apply if it's possible in a project with a community-driven project, of course, in Spain. And that's what I would like to do most. Of course, the main challenge will be again the time restriction, the duties, and all the things, and plus trying to find some space to create a project with the Kurdish people, especially in Spain. But even saying with that, having said that, I really appreciate if it's possible, because I will just take these your words, and when I try to contact with some of my colleagues, if they would be interested in a way the Wikimedia that you mentioned, to do some activism through the via Wikimedia platform, and then maybe we can take, we can talk about like more content and technical aspects. But for now, it's just for me to see what kind of projects can be realized within my at least colleagues, people that are also interested to revitalize their language and not being so isolated here in Spain. I think it's not an individual problem. I have these kind of comments from the other people that we cannot create a community here in Spain.
Okay, so Sia, having listened to you all this while, I would like to understand how you organize community-driven events at your end, especially either in Spain or in Turkey. How do you usually go about it? Maybe we could learn also and implement that in Ghana here.
Yes, when I was based in Turkey, one of the main celebration that we had, it was Newroz. It is kind of celebrating the New Year in Kurdistan. It's also celebrated by Turks, but for Kurdish people, it takes another dimension, let's say, because it's not only about the celebration. It's also all this gathering that we have, and all the related to the culture, tradition, and yeah, and of course our language. And when we celebrate the Newroz, it is one of the moments that I fully feel like the nation feeling that we have like something that we are not all alone. That's what happens to us when we are alone and we don't talk about our language, etc. But at that day, especially even more, I have never been in the Kurdistan part celebrating that, but in the images you can see that it's a like massive event, and it is only unfortunately one day celebration. And what I have taught in Spain, we do celebrate Newroz, but it is mostly with the initiative of Spanish people from Spain, that they want to gather some Kurdish people, and it has never been fully an initiative from Kurdish people that could gather in the same way in Kurdistan. But instead of doing one day event, to make it more constructed, more structured way, I'm sorry for my English, in a more structured way, and try to prepare something that could really work and could really gather people, then later on could give a boost to our language and community. We have Newroz, as I mentioned, that's like the most celebrated and most popular one. But we also, I think it was from 2006, we started with the Kurdish Language Day, Zamane Kurdi. That day is also another event that could be, that's celebrated 15th of May. That could be also another day that we can use it to create a community-driven project. Of course, it's quite complex, and I don't even know where or how to start with that. But that's something that would be really interesting if we can do something like 3 or at least 4 days that we gather all Kurdish people and try to do as much as possible during these days to create a cultural hub or a cultural checkpoint where we give another dimension to our language in diaspora, in that case in Spain. So that's what I have taught, and that's why That's why I thought that this podcast would be really interesting to talk about that as well. But I don't know if if you have something like so meaningful for you as well that you celebrate, and it is all about a gathering, a big celebration for your community, and it's not only about language itself, but it's like feeling that unity, across the maybe the nation or the language or the culture. So that's one thing that I would like to propose to the people, Kurdish people I know in Spain, Kurdish people and other people that may be interested in that.
Yes. So thank you for sharing this, and I'm happy to have learned about the New Rose Festival celebration. Yeah. So in our case, like I mentioned in the beginning, we also have festivals here. And during these festivals, people come together, they talk, they network, and all of that. And just this coming December, we'll be having the homecoming. Usually, the homecoming is like an event where people in the diaspora, people in the southern part of Ghana, and people who have moved or migrated from the Dagbon speaking area to other areas will come down. It's usually a very big event, and during this event, people it's all about the language, it's all about the traditional attire, it's all about the traditional food. And in those special events, like everything you do is all about the language, trying to recollect on and recount on the successes and challenges, and identifying community available projects that you can do together. Also, there's usually a food festival where on that special day they only cook local dishes that are prominent in the Dagon culture or to the Dagomba people. During this event, people come around, you eat to your fill, but at a certain fee, because sometimes they need to support uh, the needy and also the orphanage. So whatever food you come to eat, you donate something or you pay something small. And at the end of the day, the money they are going to make from it, they are able to donate part of it to support the orphanage and also um, people who are in need or people who are sick and have to go through surgery that is quite expensive. Again, also, we have events like the Damba Festival. This Damba Festival in the past used to just be about dancing and showcasing of the traditional artistry and mastery, the traditional attire. But now they've been able to add innovations to it where you have a special time where there's speech and prize giving. This is where you get to share more about the challenges you face, and people can maybe solicit for help from government to come and help them solve these issues. Again, we also have the Bugum Festival. The Bugum Festival is is literally a fire festival, and it's usually celebrated in the ninth. This is one of my most beloved festivals because you come out with touch of fire in your hand, and you go wild because it's the origin of this festival was more of a search party that uh, the Gombes had planned to go in search for a lost son. So they went out in those days because wild animals were so close to home. So they went out in their warrior dresses and armory. So when you're coming out for such a festival, you just dress wild, and then it's usually fun. No, uh, there are usually very little casualties because when people meet, definitely there will be casualties. But then, very little. It's a lot of fun. So, and we also have another festival that brings people together, especially uh, the Islamic festival. So the Gomba people are predominantly Muslims. So we celebrate the Eid al-Fitr and the Eid al-Adha. That's the celebration after the Ramadan fast and also the celebration to mark the end of the year. So these two special festivals also bring people from all walks of life back home. So people who are usually based in the diaspora or in the southern part of Ghana, they all come down home to have the party and celebration with their family. So yes, these are like very funful activities where people just come, eat, chill, network, and share their stories. And yeah, usually when people come down for the celebrations, they get to meet their uncles, their nieces, their nephews, and they ask them about their current educational level. Have you completed school? Do you have a job? And sometimes through these conversations, they are able to get them good referrals and then they get jobs as a result. So, yes, this is another reason I love these festivals and these community based meetups.
The thing that I want to say, and it's like really inspiring, with all these festivals that you have. I would like to have some of them at least where I'm living. We do have some activities, of course, some other people's doing stuff, but I have never felt like fully enough for us because it is mostly about some people, or it's not like scattered, not fully full of Kurdish people, a lot of people that I cannot fully speak my language and be connected with my people when I just attend these kind of activities. And I was really surprised with the one that you mentioned, Bagum Festival, with the fire in your hand, right? Something like that you mentioned. That in our neighborhoods, we also use the fire is quite important for us, and we do use it. It's kind of purification. I know there is a lot of myth going behind the fire, but I was really inspired and surprised with all the cheer. And also, I really like the one that you mentioned. And also, we are quite, the gastronomy is quite important for us. I think maybe that could be a beginning point where we can start one of our important festivals with the cooking and the food and gastronomy, where we can create a kind of donation and a financial support apart from the people who want to donate from outside. But with that, at least we can support ourselves to start with. So I really like the idea of the one that you mentioned, the festival. I don't know the name exactly, but you cook the different dishes and then people gather around, maybe some kind of donation with that. That seems to me an excellent solution, at least for my community here in Spain. Thank you a lot, Dnshitobu, for all your interventions. It was quite interesting listening to you, especially your contribution with Wikimedia funding and all the ideas and all the insights that you had related to not only your language, but also the other languages that are spoken widely in your area. So I really appreciate that. But apart from that, I was fully interested in all the festivals that you mentioned, and it seems at least much more bigger than what we have in Kurdistan or in diaspora. So some of the ideas, like such as cooking or the fire festival, which remind me of our neighbors in Kurdistan, I will try to give it a try in my community to see if we can manage some of small steps towards a community-driven project in Spain for Kurdish people. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Tia, for sharing more about your community, how you organize your community activities, and also the fact that you want to be able to organize more activities around Spain. I also appreciate the fact that you feel our festival celebration and the things we do are something you want to implement, which means that this is something we should also keep doing. Again, also about the language activism, I realized that you are more prone to having more physical meetings than online ones because it gives you that real connection. In fact, this is something we need to also keep doing down here, because our observation is that when we have in-person events, people love it more than the online ones. Like you get more turnout for in-person conversation and events than if it is just online and contributing. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And this is deepening the conversation that when people meet, great minds and great ideas will always come. Thank you for sharing all of this with me. I'm sure my community will get to learn more from that, and then we can implement some of the strategies you also have.